for our future Senator, Alyssa Slotkin. Congresswoman Slotkin has fought this with Thelma and Louise tour. These two have been on an amazing journey, breaking barriers and blazing trails. Alyssa has been a fierce advocate for healthcare, economic growth, and expanding the middle class. While Senator Debbie has been a powerhouse from the local county to the Senate, driving progress and issues that matter to all of us for nearly 50 years. We are grateful for excellent leadership at the federal level as well as the state level. Winnie Brinks has proudly served West Michigan in the state legislature since 2012. As the top lawmaker in the Senate, Winnie has led the passage of bills to create best in the nation climate and energy policies, increase earned income credit, repeal retirement tax, protect reproductive rights, LGBTQ rights, establish life-saving gun safety protocols in the state of Michigan, Michigan schools at historic landfill. It is an honor to introduce the woman who knocked on my door to canvas so many years ago, who serves as the first Democrat in 40 years and woman ever to be the Senate Majority Leader, Winnie Brinks.
Michigan. Thank you so much for being here this morning. This is the kind of energy and support that have made West Michigan such a great place to live, and it's the reason that we have been able to make such great gains in politics here in West Michigan. So thank you. When I was first elected in 2012, Grand Rapids had only two Democratic state representatives. Now, we have 5 Democratic senators. We also gained 1 Democratic state senator. And, of course, we have our amazing U.S. representative, Hilary. West Michigan was key, and we delivered for Senator Peters, for Governor Whitmer, for Secretary Benson, and for Attorney General across the board. That's right. We are here this morning to defend what we have. We cannot lose our seat in the U.S. Senate. All the great work that we are doing in Lansing cannot continue if we don't have fierce advocates working for us in Washington, D.C. We have been so fortunate these last 24 years with Senator Stabenow protecting our Great Lakes, making sure children receive nutritious meals, and supporting family farms and small businesses across the state, among so many other things. So help me thank Senator Stabenow for her decades of leadership in Michigan. Debbie has shown the way for a generation of smart and powerful women in government, myself included. And she is passing the torch to the next generation. And we are so fortunate to have another smart, powerful woman to take up that torch to succeed Debbie in the United States Senate, Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin. Alyssa Slotkin was first elected to Congress in 2018 when she flipped a GOP stronghold. That's something we know a little bit about here in West Michigan. She kept her seat in 2020 and in 2022, showing that Democrats can not only govern, but we also know what Michiganders want. Alyssa leads with her heart and her head. She is a fierce champion for affordable health care, for good-paying jobs here in Michigan, and for protecting communities from gun violence. That's why I know that Alyssa has what it takes to take the torch from Debbie and blaze a new path forward as our next U.S. Senator. she cannot do it alone. She needs our help, and that's why we're here. We need to talk to our neighbors. We need to knock on doors, and yes, we need to donate. And I know that right here in West Michigan, we are going to do all of those things and more, because this is how we keep blazing this path forward to make Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin into Senator Alyssa Slotkin. It is my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you another fierce advocate for Michigan in Washington, D.C., our Congresswoman, Hilary Scholten.
Thank you so much, Madam Senate Majority Leader. Does it feel good to say that, or what? Hello, West Michigan. It is so good to see you. This is family here. I'm looking out and I'm like, it is so good to see each and every one of you looking out at this incredible crew. This is the group. This is our family that has changed the nature of West Michigan politics over the last decade plus. Let's give yourselves a huge round of applause. You have given of your time, your talent, your treasure, put your own names on the ballot, and we have succeeded in changing the way we do politics here, because we know two big things are happening here in West Michigan. One, we are seeing incredible population growth. People like what we have here, and they want to be a part of it, and that is pretty exciting. And we are also seeing an area, historically Republican, who has just gotten so fed up with today's Republican Party. They're looking for something new, and we're able to provide it for them. It is so good to be here to help elect our next Senator, Alyssa Slotkin. I have had the privilege of working alongside Alyssa for almost 2 years now. She has been instrumental in helping to mentor me in my first term in Congress. Sometimes literally putting an arm around me and saying, let me just tell you how things work around here. Alyssa is a voice of reason, a voice of sanity, a voice of compassion at a time when we need it most. We have a simple prayer that we say in our family every evening before we eat. Bless this food to our use and us to your service. Keep us always mindful and responsive to the needs of others. And I was thinking about that today as I was thinking about coming here for Alyssa and how she just embodies the latter half of that. Keep us always mindful and responsive to the needs of others. Alyssa is someone who sees the needs of her district, of our state, and she doesn't just notice it, she does something about it. An action-oriented leader that knows how to solve problems and get the job done. And she is following in immense footsteps. Our Senator Debbie Stabenow has paved the way for Democratic leadership, but woman-led leadership here in Michigan. As the first and only woman senator from our great state, she has served, yes. For so many, and I will try to say this without getting emotional. I would not be here without her help, her influence, her support, her mentorship. After I ran in 2020 and came up short, I had to consider whether or not I would run again. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. I was always inclined to, serve our community, but in what capacity that looked like, it was still under consideration. And I'll never forget the day Senator Stabenow called me as we were considering, and she said, we need you. we need you to finish this. We need you to get back up. We need you to do it again. And I was just so inspired, so honored, so humbled, and so ready to serve because she made the call. From protecting our agriculture to making sure that the health care that we receive above the neck is treated the same as the health care we receive below the neck, Senator Stabenow has been a leading champion in the health and well-being of Michiganders for decades to come. It is my distinct honor to hand the microphone over to her. Help me welcome our United States Senator, Debbie Stabenow.
Said that I'm the first and only woman elected to the United States Senate, but now it's going to be number 2. You know, I've always said that it's not enough to be the one and only. I've done a lot of that in my life, actually. You know, the first, woman, in the State House, or the first woman to preside over the State House, or whatever. It isn't enough to be the first unless there's a second, and a third, and a fourth. And so now, when I went to the House back in, ages ago, State House, there were 8 women in the State House, none in the State Senate, none statewide, and now we have the majority leader. What an exciting election. And let me say, when I first was getting involved, nobody thought, having a Democratic woman from West Michigan, oh my gosh, in the House of Representatives. Oh my gosh, but Hilary has done a fantastic job, and we are very, very excited. I know you are as well, to give her a second chance. We're talking about our great next United States Senator, Elissa Slotkin, who I'm so very proud of. We have exciting nominees for President and Vice President of the United States. As a senator, we worked a lot together on healthcare issues. She cares deeply about mental health. And we were all at this event that you saw. And I don't know if anybody was able to get over to the event that was at the Detroit airport, but over 15,000 people. They pulled up in the plane. Everybody watched them land in the plane. They pull up, they turn around, and everybody's wildly applauding. They pull the stairs up, to the pic. Then 10 minutes of music, and then Beyonce came on. Freedom, freedom. And they opened the door, and there's Kamala. And I think we all could have flown by ourselves. Everybody was so excited. It was incredible. And I have to tell you, I told Kamala afterwards, you know how to make an entrance, girl. I've seen a lot of entrances, but the plane, this is a good entrance. So we got a lot of pizzazz going on. We got a lot of swag. We got excitement going on, and we deserve it. We need it. We're going to make sure that they get all the way to the White House. And I also just have to say, the visual, of the prosecutor versus the felon is one that we just have to keep reminding people. And now we got the varsity coach versus the JV. What was up with Vance going out to Kamala's plane? What was he attempting to do? To accost her plane? They really are just weird. They really are just weird. So, let me say, we know that West Michigan's always tough, Michigan's always tough, and we're going to work like crazy to make sure that our great Congresswoman comes back for her second term And we're going to make sure that she has a U.S. Senate race as well. Now, I have to tell you, I am very confident of Alyssa's talent, her hard work, and she's worked for all of us, and she will continue to get the job done in Michigan. And with our help, only with our help, nothing is guaranteed, only with our help, she will win, with everybody here in West Michigan helping with you. And I want to just pause and thank everybody who ran in the Democratic primary at every level. It's hard to put yourself out. Thank you for loving Michigan. Thank you for loving our country. I mean, it's great that we have so many talented people coming forward. But this is the moment to unite. This is the moment to everybody get up together and unite. Because the focus has to be on winning in November. We can't let Donald Trump and J.D. Vance get anywhere near the Oval Office. Get anywhere near the U.S. Senate. You know, when I think about the fact that Alyssa's been on the front lines of taking on the drug companies, that this is something we all care passionately about, to bring down costs. And we're doing that, you know, $35 insulin for seniors. We're about ready to announce the first 10 drugs that Medicare is going to negotiate to get the best price. There are other caps. We're doing this. You know what Mike Rogers did when he left the state house? He went to Florida and made millions of dollars off of representing the drug companies. So this is not the kind of person that we need in the United States Senate from Michigan. And there's a whole lot of things that were happening that he made a whole lot of money off of as well that are not good for us in Michigan. So we have somebody who's going to make sure that our shared values are continued, that we're going to fight successfully for our freedoms, to restore our freedoms. Top of the list, reproductive freedoms for women. I don't know about you, but I don't want Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, or Ted Cruz in the examining room with any woman in Michigan or across the country. That's actually a frightening thought. We know how to get things done. We know what is at stake. And the great news is that Alyssa understands this as well. And let me say, she knows this is a team sport. She's been incredibly involved in registering voters, engaging people. She will do that. She will make sure that we have a team approach. You know, her winning at the top in Michigan will bring folks all the way down to the local level. And I appreciate so much. She gets it, that this is a team sport and we've got to work together. She also knows that in D.C. it's a team sport. You know, as much as I'm a proud Democrat, we all are, you've got to work across the aisle. You have to listen to people. That's what we do. That's what we've always done in supporting our farmers and our small businesses and so on. Up close and personal, I've seen her with the practical hat on, reaching out to get things done. You know, we have been working very hard to get a 5-year farm bill. And it's disappointing to me as chair of the Ag Committee because partisan politics has seeped into this way more than it should have this time. And we're holding folks together to protect the values that are so important for not only Michigan farmers, but for our families who need food help and for the efforts we're making on the climate crisis to support farmers who are moving ahead. Elissa Slotkin has been the person on the Senate or on the House Agriculture Committee corralling and working with all the House Democrats to make sure we stand unified. And she's done an outstanding job in getting that done. And let me finally just say this. You know, I have represented Michigan in some form or fashion for a long time. And I know what it means to be grounded in the communities that you represent. I've seen firsthand how engaged and accessible and present she is in her district and in Michigan. Alyssa Slotkin is pure Michigan. It has been the honor of my life to suit up every day and work to get things done for you and for our wonderful state. I care deeply about Michigan, and I want to pass the torch to someone who loves Michigan as much as I do. There is no more qualified, more talented, more hardworking person that I know to pass the torch to than our next senator, my friend, Elissa Slotkin.
Well, hello, Grand Rapids, and hello, West Michigan. I can't quite get over the introduction you notice they're sitting down, so they're ready for me. I'm not going to talk for 2 hours, Senator. She warned me. She's like, if you give me a long speech, I'm sitting down. So she's prepared. I'm not going to be long. I just want to say how honored I am to have that kind of an introduction from Senator Debbie Stabenow. Her mentorship, her leadership, and in the past couple of days we started this, we call it our Thelma and Louise tour around Michigan. We're driving around Michigan together in the same car. I'm driving. We have the little GoPro cameras in there, and we're mic'd up, and she's telling me the stories of what it's been like to represent this Michigan state we love for 50 years. And I think for all her accomplishments, we all know she's the queen of agriculture, right? And wow, was that driven home yesterday. I was with her in South Haven at the Blueberry Festival and watching the way that the farmers and the industry look to her as a guiding light on how to keep their industry alive. Literally, quite literally, was a wonderful thing to see. She got a Lifetime Achievement Award. But the thing that I have to say, with all of us up here lined up like this, I think we sometimes forget what it means to be a first. And when you hear us say that we wouldn't be here without her, not one of us up here, our great Winnie Brinks, our Senate Majority Leader, Hilary Scholten, my partner in crime in the Congress, we never thought for one moment about whether a woman, we could run ourselves. We never had that pause and say, would the state accept a woman in this role? We never had to think about that. And Debbie Stabenow was the first who had to fight through all of that hazing, all of that attitude, all of that old think that said a woman can't be viewed as a leader, to the point where we didn't even have to think about it a generation later. And the second thing that I think sometimes gets missed about what it means to be a first is I have watched the senator up close, and she has like a superpower. It's a superpower I never had to learn because she mastered it. And that superpower is she can have a great idea, tell no one, make everyone else believe, especially the men, that it was their idea, walk them around the block, and by the time she's done, they've come up with this idea, they think it's amazing, and everyone gets it done and works together. Okay? That's a superpower. It's an incredibly deft hand, and I think we all know her as pure Michigan and the loveliest, constantly ever smiling senator, but don't at any moment think she's not as deft and savvy as anyone in Washington. She does it twice as well because she had to be twice as good. She was the first, and we all stand on her shoulders. So thank you. About unity. We were very proud to win the primary this past week. We won all 83 counties. We were happy about that. winners in the primary race, Hill Harper, and before that, Nasser Beydoun. As the senator said, it is hard to put yourself out there. It is hard to run for office for the first time. I know about that. We all know about that. It makes our democracy stronger when we push and pull on each other and make ourselves kind of have to compete. But it's officially my honor to be your nominee for the U.S. Senate. Michigan, because of the incredible work that you all have done over here to change the dynamic. And again, we changed the dynamic. I just have to say, on Tuesday in Ottawa County, that's an interesting change. I want to talk about what's at stake in this election and how we're gonna get it. Because I think the thing we have to be careful is we're all so excited and so energized. The air has changed in the room. We can all feel that. But you know, if you sleep on Michigan, it's going to swing the other way. That we still have to do the work. And the quote that I keep hearing, that I keep repeating, I stole it, is the win now in November for the presidency, for the Senate, for flipping the House. We are within the margin of effort. Where if we work, we will get it done. If we don't, we won't. So we also now know who the competitor is on the Republican side in the Senate race. That's former Congressman Mike Rogers. And I want to talk about the stakes of the election and how we differ, because there's some pretty significant differences that I think will characterize this race. Many of you have heard me say, my sun and my moon, the way that I orient all of my work in Congress is I believe to my core that America has to be a place where anyone from anywhere can get into the middle class and beyond. That is as foundational to us as a state, to us as a country, as anything. We invented the middle class in Michigan, right? We invented that concept you could work at an auto plant and afford the car that you were building. Radical concept at the time. But in Michigan, it has become harder to get in and stay in the middle class. We need to see that. And to me, it doesn't matter what age. You could be a student dealing with student debt and say, like, am I going to have the life that I was promised? You could be a middle-aged family trying to buy a bigger home, not able to afford that home. You know about that in Grand Rapids, right? Or you could be a senior who's seen your Social Security and Medicare checks shrink because of inflation. Okay, right, there we go. Someone waving in the front. So we're all feeling it at every stage of life. The math is not mathing on the middle class. And for a multiracial, multi-ethnic experiment in democracy, that's a problem. We have to be a place where if you work hard, you will do well and your kids do better. So I focus on job creation, job development. That's my opponent sending the leaf blower during my speech. Tim, could be the Chinese, I don't know who it is, but it is, I believe in job creation, jobs with dignity, union jobs, things that allow you the keys to the middle class. And then on the other side of the ledger, the math is bringing down the cost of housing, education, healthcare, prescription drugs. And this is where you can start to see the differences. And you heard the senator outline this with Mike Rogers. The contrast is very clear. Quite simply, we have a contrast between service to country and service to self. That is the way to frame these issues. I worked very hard, as many of us did, to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices, right? We're going to get our first 10 that we can negotiate. All the other countries in the world, like Costco, can negotiate big prices in bulk, right? Except us, until we said we're going to reverse that. Mr. Rogers worked on behalf of the pharmaceutical industry, calling himself the, quote, champion of the pharmaceutical industry. That's a big difference in how we enter a meeting with the pharmaceutical companies. Do you believe your job is to hold them accountable, or do you believe your job is to do their bidding in legislation and in law, right? Totally different headspace. Mike voted to repeal the Affordable Care Act and the protections for people with pre-existing conditions. This couldn't be more personal to me, because of my own mother's struggles with her pre-existing condition and not being able to afford her care. So there's a difference between us in how we see the role of the middle class and our jobs in bringing down costs, our responsibilities as legislators. Number two, I want to make more things in America. right? I accept not everything will be made again in Michigan, although if I had my druthers, every single thing would be made here. But it's why we worked really hard to pass concrete things like the CHIPS Act, right? You all have microchips in your pocket, and we make 0% of the chips that go in cars. That's a vulnerability. That's a problem. As a national security person, that's a problem. For 14 years, Mike Rogers supported every single trade bill. He was a champion of NAFTA that helped ship millions of our jobs overseas. And now we're returning that manufacturing to our state and to our country. We have an industrial policy that has created 44 new factories being built from the ground up right now today in the state of Michigan. After 40 years of not a single factory. And somehow now they're grumbling about manufacturing coming back. Right? I want to be clear that either we're going to make the next generation of cars, things like electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles, or China's going to make them. That's the choice. So when you complain about, well, we've got a new plant that's going to make an electric vehicle, do you want to make the next generation of cars, or would you like the Chinese to do it? That's the question. You don't have to drive one. You don't like them, don't drive it. But I want to build it, and I want to build it in Michigan. Number 3, I want to protect our kids from the things that are truly harming them. I say truly because I mean truly. The #1 killer of children under 21 is gun violence. That's not a political statement. It's not political. In our communities, in our schools, by suicide and by accident. I had a very personal engagement on this, even though, like many Michiganders, I grew up with guns. And for me, I served 3 tours in Iraq alongside the military. I carried a Glock and an M4, and I thank God every day I had those weapons. But the idea that we can't have a conversation with gun owners about protecting our babies in their communities, in our schools, is absurd. And Mike Rogers, for being a former FBI officer, doesn't say a word about the #1 killer of children. Right? He wants to talk about culture war issues. He wants to talk about things. He wants to create stress and fear around a culture war. I focus on real threats, right? So those are the big differences between us. And then lastly, this is a style thing more than a substance thing. Somehow, God bless America, if I'm elected, I'll be the youngest Democratic woman in the Senate. It's just about age. I think it's about approach. I come from the national security world, right? The Pentagon and the CIA. You don't go to the bathroom without strategic planning. I mean, you're constantly thinking about scenario planning and what could happen and what are we going to do next and how do we counter this and how do we go on offense. I want to play offense on protecting our rights and our democracy. We don't live in a world anymore where we can just wait and it'll all work itself out. Namely because of the Supreme Court. Right? That fail-safe that we used to have to kind of filter out some of the crazier ideas, no longer that fail-safe. So we have to push to protect our rights and our democracy and go on offense. Mr. Rogers is not interested in you having your rights and protecting our democracy. He has worked very hard for Mr. Trump's endorsement. He secured it. And he now does whatever he says when it comes to rights and democracy. So whether it's choice and being able to legislate the Roe v. Wade, which we never did for 50 years, legislate IVF so everyone has the access to contraception and in vitro fertilization, all of those things. He has been very clear that he would support, he has in the past supported a constitutional amendment to ban abortion across the country. And now he wants you to believe that he's evolved. And so the only thing I'll leave you with, for so many of folks who run for office, is please, I'm begging you, people show you who they are. Believe them. Believe them. If they've got 20 years of voting a certain way, they are not going to become this dynamic hero who bucks their own party and represents your rights and your democracy. So, thank you for helping me get here. Thank you for being West Michigan, which is like literally just showing the state and the country how we can change things over time. I will leave you with one final thought, because the energy has been so good, but we all know part of the reason the energy is so intense is because we've been going through a rough go of it in the past, 8+ years at this point. It's been a hard road. It's been a hard road. We know we're going through a moment of political turmoil in the United States of America, but it is not the end. We will get through this. Our country has been through these periods before, and every single time we get through these periods with two things. Always. Engaged citizens and principled leaders. Just by being here, by being active, by being volunteers, you are showing that you are engaged citizens, right? Doing a little bit more than the average person because you care about your country, right? And I will do everything in my power to be the principled leader that you deserve. So thank you, thank you, thank you.